News18 Tamil Nadu நேயர்களுக்கு வணக்கம். இஸ்ரேல் ஹமாஸ் இடையிலான மோதல் போர் என்பது தொடங்கி ஓராண்டை நெருங்கிவிட்டோம். சரியாக ஓராண்டு காலம் ஆகியிருக்கிறது. இது இஸ்ரேலுக்கும் ஹமாஸுக்கும் மட்டுமான போராக அல்லாமல் அண்டை நாடுகளுக்கும் இந்த மோதல் என்பது பரவ தொடங்கி இருக்கிறது. குறிப்பாக ஈரான் இஸ்ரேல் மீது தாக்குதலை தொடுத்திருக்கிறது. இஸ்ரேல் ஹமாஸ் அமைப்போடு மட்டுமல்லாமல் லெபனானில் இருக்கக்கூடிய ஹெஸ்பொல்லா அமைப்பு மீதான தாக்குதலையும் தொடர்ச்சியாக நடத்தி வருகிறது. மறுபுறம் ஏமனில் உள்ள ஹூத்திஸ் அமைப்பினர் மீதான தாக்குதலும் தொடர்கிறது என்று கூறலாம். இந்த ஒரு சூழலில் இஸ்ரேல் தரப்பிலிருந்து என்ன சொல்கிறார்கள் என்பதை நம்மோடு பகிர்ந்து கொள்வதற்காக தென்னிந்தியாவிற்கான இஸ்ரேல் கான்சல் ஜெனரல் மிஸ்ஸஸ் ஆர்லி வெய்ட்ஸ்மேன் நம்மோடு இணைந்திருக்கிறார். வெல்கம் டு த ஷோ, மிஸ்ஸஸ் ஆர்லி வெய்ட்ஸ்மேன்.
Thank you for having me.
Marking a year of war between Israel and Hamas, how has Israel handled this whole year? Especially, Hamas has insisted that marking this anniversary, they have took attacks on Israel in South especially. How do you want to respond to this?
Today is a very emotional day, and I apologize in advance if I become very emotional. Waking up this morning, realizing that it's been exactly a year is a hard thing for I think for any Israeli to handle, and I myself I'm in very emotional today. As you remember, 7th of October a year ago, Hamas terrorists entered Israel, the southern Israel, kidnapped, raped, killed, burnt alive children, mothers, whole families. They murdered parents in front of their children and children in front of their parents, raped women in a brutal way, kidnapped people, and some of which 101 of them are still kidnapped in Gaza. So Israel, since then, I think has realized that that it has to eliminate terrorism in order for peace to be a possibility in the Middle East and for Israel, and to defend itself in every possible way. And that's what Israel has been doing basically since the 7th of October a year ago, in both in the southern border, in the border with Gaza, and also unfortunately in Lebanon, where from the 8th of October, Hezbollah decided to join Hamas on their own accord without being provoked and started firing into Israel. Israel has been on the basically in a fight for its thriving and existence since then. It's something that Israel has to maintain to make sure that all Israelis are safe and secure now and in the future.
It's no more a war between just Israel and Hamas. It's like in the edge of a full blown out war between the Middle East countries, we can put it like that. In this situation, Iran's supreme leader has given a speech. He has said that their missile strike on Israel is just a least punishment. He has said that words. So how does Israel wants to respond to that?
So Israel, again, I think to understand what's happening in the Middle East, one must understand that Iran basically has been for years perpetuating and using its proxies against Israel. So when we talk about Hamas in Gaza or Hezbollah in Lebanon or the Houthis in Yemen, basically we're always talking about Iran in the background. So Iran has done everything that it can to, it openly declares that it wants to destroy Israel, and it's doing everything that it can in order to try and make that happen. And now we've seen also direct, indiscriminate attacks on Israeli civilians as well. So again, Israel has to do whatever it can to defend itself, whether it's with the forces or whether directly with Iran. And their response will be something that will take into account the needs of security in the immediate future and also in the far future, because Israeli civilian security is something that Israel, it's a duty, and Israel has to exercise that duty to protect Israeli people.
Do you think that before Iran was micromanaging it, now it is giving direct warnings and attacks? So how far they can go?
You'll have to ask the Iranians. I hope they come to their senses and realize that peace is an important issue. If they decide to recognize Israel's right to exist and try to and want peace, then peace will be very easy to achieve. So I think you're asking the wrong person, but I think that knowing Iran, unfortunately, the safety of civilians, both Israeli, obviously, but also civilians of other places around the world is not a very high priority for them. Peace is not a priority for them, as they keep declaring that their priority is to disrupt the Middle East, to destroy Israel. So I think I wouldn't count on Iranians too much right now with this current regime for peace, unless they really realize that they really shouldn't do this, because Israel will never compromise the safety of its citizens.
Like Israel's ex-PM Naftali Bennett insists, does Israel has a plan of striking inside Iran against the nuclear facilities?
Naftali Bennett is no longer part of the government, and he can speak freely. However, the government, and I am a representative of the government, will not discuss our plans on air, and will not talk about what we plan to do. So it's not something that I can discuss. And there are cabinets meetings of the government who discuss what would be the best plan, how would be the best reaction, and what would be most effective in terms of maintaining safety and security, and that's something I can't comment about any further.
Like I mentioned earlier, it's been a year, and there were also initiatives for the ceasefire between Israel and Gaza, but there is repeated breakdown on this. What do you think the reason?
I think that there's no real understanding on the other part what are security needs. Again, when we talk about a ceasefire, we can't just stop it and then risk having another attack like this in a few months or in a year. This is something that can never ever happen again. And until Israel is assured that this will never happen again, it has to keep doing what it's doing to make sure that Israel is kept safe. So once our enemies decide that they are willing to accept Israel's existence, and they are willing to stop threatening us militarily and try to find a diplomatic solution, as Israel would always prefer, then it will be able to the ceasefire will be able to come into place, and some kind of more permanent solution will hopefully take place. But again, until Israel is convinced that of the safety, and we've seen, I mean, we tried different things. I remind you that in 2005 Israel exited Gaza, and in 2007 Hamas took over, and since then it's prioritized destroying Israel, or trying to destroy Israel, and going into terror. All the money that was entering Gaza, instead of being put into civilian infrastructure to build schools, to build better places, parks, make Gaza beautiful, a nice place, they decided to invest all their money in trying to destroy Israel. So I think Golda Meir had put it in very good words, that peace can come when Palestinians love their children more than they hate ours. And I pray for that, because I think the Palestinian people deserve to be loved and deserve to be governed by people who care for their own good, and not who care only to destroy Israel.
Is it possible to bring peace talk in this dire situation?
Right now, it has to be a solution. First of all, the hostages have to come home, and the safety and the security of Israeli civilians must be kept. After that, I think we're all open to, Israel is always open to finding a diplomatic solution. But it has to be when Israel feels that the safety of its people is maintained.
Israel also continues its attack on Lebanon, the Hezbollah. In this situation, on Monday, Hezbollah's second-in-command, Qassem, has said that Israel can never reach Hezbollah's capacities, the army capacities. What's your say on this?
I think Israel had to do it. Unfortunately, we were attacked unprovoked since the 8th of October, and it has to stop. People have been displaced. Think of tens of thousands of people who have had to leave their homes for now a year. That they're not living in their homes. I don't know, think of your own family or children or brothers and sisters who you've had to take out of your house, go live in hotels in different parts of the country, not knowing when you'll be able to get home, and your home being ruined by missiles. This can't continue. No country, no sovereign country will allow this to happen, and Israel has to find a solution. So we were hoping for a diplomatic solution by implementing UN Resolution 1701. Hezbollah, unfortunately, is not cooperating with that resolution, and so Israel has to find a way to make sure that its citizens can go home and live safely.
In this process of eliminating the enemies from your side, like today even the PM has visited the Lebanon border, and he has said to the soldiers that we will win together. But in this process, in this whole process, like there is so much disruption in civilian life. Like we have lost so many lives. Like what does Israel wants to say to them?
So Israel is doing whatever it can to make sure that the civilian life, both in Israel and in other places, the disruption is minimized as possible. Israel sent warnings to citizens of South Lebanon who are living inside villages and in houses where Hezbollah have hidden weapons. So I remind you that Hezbollah have actually so cynically used people, have hidden missiles inside their homes in order to try and attack Israel, and so that Israel would have to attack and to eliminate the threat, they would have to target the weapons themselves, which are sitting within civilians' infrastructure. So in order to minimize the hurt and in order to try and ensure as much safety as possible to innocent people, they have given warnings, phone calls, sent flyers out, radio messages to get people to leave their homes. And we do see people that are leaving their homes and their lives are spared. But when we are dealing with a terrorist organization that so cynically has no problem using lives of innocent people to hide their weapons, to fight Israel, then sometimes these casualties happen. Although Israel is very much trying to avoid this, Israel has no problem with the people of Lebanon, and we know that many of them also suffer from Hezbollah themselves, and we're hoping that the elimination of Hezbollah in the long run will benefit not only Israelis but also Lebanese people and other people around the world as well.
Some analysts, they also believe that USA should stop sending weapons to Israel so that there will be no fear of bringing a full-blown out war in Middle East. Is that so?
Israel is doing its best not only to defend itself, but to defend the free world. So right now, Israel is the one suffering attacks. But if you stop Israel from responding, then what's going to happen? You think that, do these people imagine that there's going to be peace? Or do they imagine that Israel is going to be kept being attacked? And once Israel is attacked, the free world is attacked, because terrorism has no borders. And we've seen terrorist attacks all over the world by extreme Islamists. And to try and ignore that and to try and put the blame on Israel, or to think that if Israel didn't react, then the world would be a peaceful place, is very naive and unrealistic. Israel is fighting for its freedom and for the freedom of a terrorism-free world. And I think people should realize that and support Israel in its endeavor to try and make the world a better place.
With USA being on your side, what's the possibility of a full-blown out war between Israel and Iran?
I hope very much that the Iranians realize that it would be a very stupid move on their part, because, again, I think Israel has shown its capabilities, and Israel will do, and our leaders have said that they will do whatever it takes in order to make sure that we're kept safe. So when firing rockets at Israel is indiscriminate, targeting civilians, and we've just seen horrific attacks. Just 3 months ago, there was a Hezbollah attack that killed 10 Arab Druze children playing football, 10-year-old children. It's so tragic, and to have this kind of words is horrifying. And I'm hoping very much that Iran will realize that it's in its best interest to not keep on this war.
First, it was between Israel and Hamas. Later, Hezbollah interfered in this. So, Israel started a limited ground invasion in Lebanon. Then it is moving further in the northern border ahead of the Litani River. So, how do you think UN will handle this?
So UN should implement Resolution 1701, which speaks about Hezbollah being northern of the Litani River and being disarmed. So if that was implemented to begin with, then we wouldn't be in this situation now. So I think that the UN should do well in realizing that Israel has had to implement it itself, this resolution, because it wasn't implemented by Hezbollah and wasn't enforced by the UN. So now is the time for enforcement of this resolution, and then Israel will feel, I think, a bit safer that when Hezbollah is not at its borders and not firing rockets at its civilians and killing young children and trying to hurt Israelis the way Hamas did on the 7th of October.
Coming back to the Iran Supreme Leader's speech, he has mentioned that if needed, we will attack Israel again. Do you think this is a strong warning from them, or they fear of a war?
I don't know how the Iranians think, and I think that their whole way of thinking is completely alien to me. The fact that they prioritize killing people and trying to hurt instead of prioritizing bringing peace to the Middle East, and which they have the power to do once they recognize the state of Israel. So I really can't speak of what they think and what the way they think. It's completely alien. It's completely foreign to me. I think that people who love peace and who really just want to live their life and want peace for everybody should act differently. And I hope very much that they, like I said before, that they don't attack because that will leave Israel no choice but to react and to make sure that civilians are always safe.
How can India play a role in this? How do you think India can support?
India has been a very, very good ally to Israel, and the warm words, and one of the first, Modi was one of the first world leaders to condemn the attack on October 7th. And of course, it's up to India to decide what role it chooses to play. But we are very appreciative of the constructive support that we've seen so far.
We hope peace be the solution, and thank you so much for participating in this interview, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you.